The moment it happened, the whole room froze. It was supposed to be a celebration. Music, food, smiles. The big screen behind the Millionaire read in gold letters, "Congratulations to the winner of the Future Leaders Scholarship." The audience clapped and cheered. Cameras flashed. The red carpet shone under the bright lights. Then the name was called. Ayanna Brooks. At first, there was silence. A few people looked confused. One woman in the front row whispered, "Wait, that can't be right." Ayanna stood up slowly, her brown hands shaking. Her mother gasped. Ayanna had almost not come, thinking she didn't stand a chance. But now she walked up the stage in her thrifted shoes, eyes wide, tears already building. But just before she could reach the millionaire, a sharp voice cut the cheers in half. "Excuse me," said a woman in a red suit, stepping forward with a folder. "There's been a mistake." Ayanna stopped. The woman opened the folder, glanced at the papers, then whispered something into the millionaire's ear. His face changed. A smirk disappeared. His smile turned into a tight line. He stepped away from the microphone and whispered back. Then he did something no one expected. He turned to the crowd and said, "Actually, we've had a last-minute change." Ayanna blinked. "What?" The millionaire cleared his throat. "The winner is Jason Miller." A tall, white boy stood up in the back. Everyone clapped again, but it was weaker this time. Some claps didn't feel real. Jason looked just as confused as Ayanna, but he walked up to the stage anyway. Ayanna was left standing halfway up the stairs, her heart pounding, her face hot. Her mother rushed to her and held her close. Ayanna whispered, "Why would he do that?" And that's when a deep voice from the corner said, "Because it was a trap." But what he didn't expect was kindness. Everyone turned. A janitor stepped out of the shadows, holding something in his hand. A video. Everything was about to change. The day had started like any other. Ayanna was in her bedroom, studying for her final exams. The walls were bare except for a poster of Maya Angelou and a shelf full of books. She had dreams bigger than her neighborhood. She wanted to be a civil rights lawyer. Not for money, but for justice. Scholarships don't fall from the sky. Her mom always said, "You gotta climb, baby." Ayanna had climbed. Every single day. She studied late, worked part-time at the grocery store, helped her little brother with homework, and still made the honor roll. When she found out she was one of the 10 finalists for the Future Leaders Scholarship, she couldn't believe it. It was sponsored by a millionaire named Conrad Slate, who owned shopping malls and hotels. People said he had a heart for young talent, but Malik, the janitor at Ayanna's school, didn't trust him. "Slate's money smells funny," Malik once told her as he swept the hallway. "Some folks give with one hand and take with the other." Ayanna didn't want to believe that. This was her chance. The application had been hard. There was an essay question asking about overcoming struggles. Ayanna wrote about being followed in stores, about teachers who called on everyone but her, and about the time she was told she was too angry when she defended a classmate from racist jokes. She thought her honesty might hurt her chances, but she still hit submit. The finalists were invited to the big gala. Ayanna wore the same dress she wore to her cousin's wedding. She walked in quietly, eyes big as saucers, her mom holding her hand like when she was little. Conrad Slate walked around the room, greeting people like a king among villagers. He had shiny rings and shiny shoes. He smiled at Ayanna when he passed her, but didn't stop to speak. Later that night, just minutes before the award was announced, something strange happened. Malik, dressed in his janitor uniform, slipped into the building from the back. No one noticed him. He wasn't supposed to be there, but he was holding a flash drive tight in his pocket, and his heart was racing. He had found something. Earlier that day, Malik was cleaning an office near the back of the school where Slate's assistant had left some documents. One file had fallen open. It listed the scholarship finalists, ranked. Ayanna's name was number 1, but next to it was a sticky note. "Pick someone less controversial. We want good PR." There was also a printout of her essay with notes in red ink. "Too political. Mentions racism too much. Not the image we want." Malik snapped a photo and emailed it to himself. Then he checked the office computer. In the recycle bin was a video file. Slate talking to his assistant, saying, "We'll pretend to consider everyone, but we already know the winner. I'm not giving $50,000 to someone who'll call out the system." Malik saved the video before it could be deleted. Now here he was at the gala, stepping forward as Ayanna stood frozen on the stage. People were whispering. The Millionaire's team was moving toward him quickly. But Malik wasn't scared. He raised the flash drive in the air. "This," he said, "is the truth." Slate shouted, "Security." But a woman in the crowd stood up. Then a man. Then another. People blocked the guards. Ayanna stepped down from the stage, eyes wide, staring at Malik. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. Malik smiled. "Because when someone sets a trap, it doesn't mean you have to fall into it. Sometimes the trap shows who they really are." Then Ayanna's mom, voice full of fire, shouted, "Play the video." Someone pulled out a laptop and connected it to the big screen. The video started. Slate's voice echoed through the room. "We already know the winner. Just pick someone who doesn't talk too much about race." Gasps filled the room. Some people covered their mouths. Others looked furious. Slate's face went pale. Ayanna looked around at the people watching and saw something she didn't expect. Not just anger, but kindness. People came closer. They put hands on her shoulder. One man said, "You earned this." Another said, "We're with you." Slate turned to leave, but someone blocked his path. Jason, the boy who had been called up to the stage. He looked at Ayanna, then back at the millionaire. "I won't accept the scholarship," he said, voice shaking. "She's the one who deserves it." The crowd erupted. Ayanna's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Jason, stunned. She had thought he was just another name, but his voice had opened a new door. The millionaire's trap had exposed something unexpected, not just the truth, but kindness. And then, suddenly, the fire alarm went off. Screaming, running, and in the confusion, someone grabbed Malik. He was being dragged away. Ayanna shouted his name. And then, the lights went out. Screams echoed through the ballroom as red lights flashed across the walls. The loud ringing of the fire alarm filled every corner of the building. People were rushing toward the exits, knocking over chairs and spilling drinks, shouting for their loved ones. Ayanna pushed through the crowd. "Malik! Malik!" She saw him for a second, his gray janitor uniform just visible as two security guards dragged him toward a back hallway. He didn't fight them, but his eyes met Ayanna's, and she could see the fear behind his calm face. Without thinking, she ran after them. "Stop!" she shouted. "Let him go." But the crowd swallowed her cries. She shoved past a man in a tuxedo, ducked around a waitress carrying a tray, and reached the hallway just in time to see the doors slammed shut behind Malik and the guards. Her breath caught. Then a hand grabbed her arm. She turned fast, ready to yell, but it was Jason. Hey, it's me," he said, holding up his hands. "Why are they taking him?" Ayanna asked, panicked. "He didn't do anything wrong." Jason nodded. "I know. I saw the video. I believe you." "Then help me," Ayanna said, gripping his sleeve. "We can't let them get away with this." Jason looked unsure. I don't know where they're taking him. Probably the service exit." "Then we follow," Ayanna said firmly, already heading for the door. They pushed into the back hallway. It was quieter there, dark and cold. The noise of the alarm was muffled, but the sense of danger still hung thick in the air. Ayanna's heart pounded in her ears. "Wait," Jason whispered, pointing ahead. The hallway ended in a steel door. Just beyond it, they heard voices, deep and angry. "Should have destroyed the flash drive when you had the chance. That janitor thinks he's smart. Let's see how smart he is when no one finds him." Ayanna's stomach turned. Jason whispered, "They're going to hurt him." Ayanna clenched her fists. "Not if I stop them." She looked around. To her left was a supply closet. She opened it and found cleaning tools, rags, and a tall, beat-up mop bucket. She grabbed a broomstick and handed one to Jason. He blinked. "You want me to fight security guards?" "No," she said. "We just need to distract them long enough to get Malik out. Then we run." Jason swallowed hard and nodded. Ayanna pushed the door open. "Hey," she shouted. The two guards turned fast. One had Malik pinned against the wall. The other reached into his jacket for something. Ayanna didn't wait. She threw the broomstick like a javelin. It smacked the man's arm with a loud crack. Jason charged next, using the mop bucket as a shield. He rammed it into the second guard's legs, knocking him off balance. Malik shoved free from a wall and swung around, elbowing the first guard in the gut. Ayanna grabbed his hand. "Come on." The three of them bolted down a side hallway. Footsteps thundered behind them. They burst out into the parking lot, the night air hitting them like a slap. Sirens wailed in the distance. Fire trucks? Or more security? "Over here!" Jason yelled, pointing to his car. They dove into the vehicle, Malik in the back, Ayanna beside him. Jason jumped into the driver's seat and slammed the door shut. Tires screeched as he pulled out of the lot. Everyone was breathing hard. Ayanna looked back at Malik. "Are you okay?" He nodded, rubbing his wrist. "Thanks to you." Jason glanced at them through the rearview mirror. "Where should we go?" Ayanna paused. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere Slate won't find us." Malik said, "I know just a place." They drove for nearly 20 minutes, leaving the fancy buildings behind, passing neighborhoods that were quieter, darker, and far less polished than the Gala. Finally, they stopped in front of an old church, small, worn down, but still standing tall. Its sign read, "New Dawn Baptist, all are welcome." They went inside. Inside was a soft peace, old wooden pews, and stained glass windows that glowed from the moonlight outside. Malik locked the door behind them and led them to the back, where an older woman in a shawl sat reading a Bible. "Miss Lila," he said gently, "we need your help." She looked up, eyes sharp but kind. "Always, Malik. What's wrong?" He told her everything. The trap, the video, the stolen scholarship, the fake fire alarm, the attack. She listened carefully, then nodded. "Then it's time people see the truth," she said. "You three stay here tonight. Tomorrow we share your story with the world." Ayanna sat down, her legs finally giving out. Jason collapsed beside her. "Why would someone like Slate do all this?" Jason asked. "He's rich. He didn't need to cheat." Malik looked out the window. "It's not about needing. It's about power. He wanted to look like a hero, but only to the people who already had everything. Not to folks like Ayanna. Not to the ones who speak truth." Ayanna's hands curled into fists. "But we won't let him win." Miss Lila smiled. "No, child. We won't." They spent the night in the church, sleeping on cushions and wrapped in blankets. Ayanna barely slept. Her mind raced, replaying the moment Slate changed the winner's name, replaying the crowd, Jason stepping forward, Malik being dragged away. But when the sun rose, she was ready. So were the others. Miss Lila brought an old laptop and helped upload the full video. Malik wrote a statement. Jason filmed a message. And Ayanna, she told her story. They sent it to news outlets, to blogs, to social media. They didn't know who would see it, but they sent it anyway. By noon, the video had gone viral. By evening, reporters were at the church. And by nightfall, the church was surrounded again. But this time, it wasn't just cameras and reporters. Slate's black SUV rolled up outside. He stepped out. Behind him were more security guards. Ayanna stood at the church door, heart pounding. He looked at her, smiled, then said, "You think you've won, but I've got something of yours." He reached into his coat and pulled out a sealed envelope. Ayanna frowned. "What is that?" Slate held it out with 2 fingers. "A piece of your past," he said, grinning. "Something that might change everything." She didn't move. Malik stepped closer. "What are you playing at, Slate?" Slate's grin widened. "Let's just say even the loudest voices can be silenced once the truth comes out." He dropped the envelope at her feet, turned, and walked away. Ayanna stared at the envelope, her hand trembling as she reached for it. Then she opened it. Inside was a photo, a birth certificate, and a letter. She read it once, twice, and her knees buckled. Malik caught her before she fell. "What is it?" he asked. Ayanna looked up at him, face pale. "He knows who my real father is," she whispered. "And if it's true—" She stopped. Jason stepped forward. If it's true, what? Ayanna looked at them both. Then Slade is my father's brother. The silence in the church was so deep. It was like even the walls were holding their breath. Ayanna stared at the letter, her hand shaking, eyes wide with disbelief. Jason stood frozen beside her. Malik slowly took the papers from her trembling hands and scanned them. His eyebrows rose as he read the old birth certificate and the letter that came with it. It was dated 16 years ago. Dear Conrad, if anything ever happens to me, I want you to know the truth. Her name is Ayanna. She's your niece. My daughter. I couldn't tell you before because of the choices I made, and because of how you treated me after I married her mother. But she is yours to protect, even if you never cared for me. Don't punish her for my decisions. Micah Brooks. Malik let out a long, heavy breath. Micah Brooks, that was your dad. Ayanna nodded slowly. He died when I was 4. Car crash. Mom never talked about his family. She said they turned their backs on her because she was black. Jason whispered. So Slate. He's my uncle, Ayanna said, her voice breaking. The man who tried to ruin me, who stole the scholarship, who lied to everyone. He's my family. Malik closed his eyes. This changes everything. Jason looked between them. Why would Slate hide this? Why send it now? To scare me, Ayanna said bitterly. To make me back down. To make me think he has some power over me. But even as she said it, a knot of doubt pulled tight in her chest. What if he did have power? What if this blood connection could change how people saw her story? Could Slate twist it to make himself look like the victim? Miss Lila stepped forward. Child, don't let that paper rewrite your truth. You're still the same strong girl you were yesterday. Don't let a man like him chain you to his name. Ayanna looked at her, and the words sank deep. I won't, she said, voice stronger. But we're going to need more than just videos now. If people find out Slate's my uncle, they might think this whole thing is some family fight. Jason added, we need proof that he planned this, that he meant to cheat you, even knowing who you were. Malik nodded. We need to show the world not just what he did, but why he did it. The church became a war room. They laid out papers, messages, and video clips. They searched through public records. Ayanna reached out to her mom, who hesitated at first, but then sent photos and letters from her father, all showing the connection between the Brooks and Slate families. Jason found something important, too. On Slate's company website, there was a list of all past scholarship winners. Almost all of them were white. Only one had a black-sounding name, and a quick search revealed she had changed it years ago after getting adopted. We need someone inside his company, Malik said. Someone who can tell us what Slate is planning next. Jason hesitated, then looked down. I think I might be able to help. They turned to him. My mom works for Slate's legal team, he said quietly. I overheard her talking on the phone last night. Something about cleaning up the damage before the press finds more. Ayanna's eyes lit up. Can she help us? Jason shrugged. I don't know. She's always careful. But maybe if I asked her the right way. Malik stepped closer. If she knows something and is willing to share, it could turn this into a real case. Not just a story. Jason nodded. I'll talk to her tonight. As evening fell, they all split up. Ayanna stayed at the church with Miss Lila, trying to calm her thoughts. Malik returned to his apartment to gather old files. And Jason went home, to face his mother. He didn't return until nearly midnight. When he walked back into the church, he looked pale and shaken. I talked to her, he said. She wouldn't say much at first, but I told her everything. About Ayanna, about the video, about what Slade did. And, Ayanna asked. Jason took a deep breath. She gave me this. He handed Malik a folded document. Malik opened it, and his eyes widened. It's an internal memo, he said. Slate gave direct instructions to deny Ayanna's application unless she agreed to tone down her racial language. And look at this. There's a list of alternate winners he approved before the event, none of whom were in the top rankings. Ayanna felt her chest tighten. It was worse than she thought. Jason said softly, My mom, she said if it gets traced back to her, she could lose her job. But she believes what he did was wrong. Ayanna whispered, We can't keep this to ourselves anymore. We have to take this public. Malik nodded. Agreed. But we need a lawyer. I know someone, Miss Lila said. A friend of mine works with a civil rights group. She'll take this case. They made the call that night. By morning, lawyers had arrived. By afternoon, a full press conference was planned. Ayanna stood in front of the cameras, the church behind her, flanked by Malik, Jason, and a young black woman in a sharp suit. The lawyer Miss Lila had called. Ayanna took a deep breath. My name is Ayanna Brooks, she said clearly. And I'm here today not just as a student, but as someone who was targeted because of the color of my skin, by a man who is not just a millionaire, but my uncle. Gasps. Flashing lights. Reporters scribbled furiously. She told her story. She showed the documents. The video played again. Then the lawyer stepped up. We are filing a lawsuit for racial discrimination, fraud, and emotional harm. Not just for Ayanna, but for every student who was quietly passed over for being too proud, too outspoken, or too black. The news spread like wildfire. Social media exploded with support. People shared their own stories. Slate stayed quiet for 2 days. Then, on the third day, his lawyer gave a statement. My client denies all wrongdoing. He had no knowledge of Ayanna Brooks's identity before the award. The choice to change the winner was made by staff under pressure. But Ayanna knew the truth, and so did the world. Just when it seemed things couldn't go higher, Malik walked into the church that night holding a newspaper. The headline read, Former Slate employee reveals hidden emails. We can't have a black girl with a voice winning this. Ayanna read the article, then looked at Malik. This could destroy him. Malik nodded, or make him desperate. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered slowly. A man's voice. Calm. Cold. Miss Brooks, if you keep pushing, you might just uncover things that even you aren't ready for. She froze. Who is this? But the line had already gone dead. Ayanna's hand shook as she lowered the phone. Her mind was spinning, her pulse loud in her ears. Malik stepped forward. Who was it? I don't know, she said. The voice was calm. Too calm. He said if I keep pushing, I might uncover things I'm not ready for. Jason frowned. Is he threatening you? Ayanna nodded, but slowly. Not just threatening. Warning. Malik took her phone, looked at the number, and wrote it down. We'll give this to the lawyer. But Ayanna, you need to be careful now. This isn't just about the scholarship anymore. Ayanna looked down at the photo of her father from the envelope, Micah Brooks. Her mother had sent more pictures that morning. In every one, Micah stood tall, proud, dark-skinned like her, with a smile that made her heart ache. He had loved her, and now she knew why Slate hated her so much. She reminded him of everything he tried to erase. Later that night, the lawyer called a meeting in the church basement. Files were spread across the long wooden table. Malik, Jason, Miss Lila, and a few more volunteers had joined. There was tension in the air, like something big was coming. The lawyer pointed to a document on the table. This is an internal company report, leaked by another employee this morning. It shows that Slate's team didn't just change the winner. They also scrubbed Ayanna's application from their digital archive, like she never even applied. Jason's face went red. That's illegal, right? Yes, the lawyer said. And it proves intent. They wanted to erase her completely. Ayanna whispered, like I didn't exist. Miss Lila touched her shoulder. But you do, child. You exist. You shine. The lawyer nodded. This gives us more leverage. We're filing for a federal investigation. Just then, Malik's phone buzzed. He stepped out to take the call. When he returned, his face had changed. Pale. Tense. Ayanna, he said carefully. Someone tried to break into your school records. She blinked. What? An anonymous request was sent to the school board, asking for your full disciplinary file, grades, and attendance history. They said it was for a journalistic article, but didn't give a name. Jason muttered, They're digging for dirt. Ayanna's voice cracked. I've never been suspended. I've never even gotten detention. They don't care, Malik said. They're just trying to twist anything they can. The room was silent. Then the lawyer said, "This is the part where most people give up, where they feel the weight of the system pressing down." Ayanna looked around the table, at the faces that believed in her, at Jason, who'd stood up for her, at Malik, who risked everything, at Miss Lila, who'd opened her doors. "No," she said, "I'm not giving up. If they're scared enough to come after me, that means we're getting close." The next morning, Ayanna and her team were invited to speak on national television. A news station had picked up the story and wanted her side live. She wore a simple blue dress, no makeup, hair natural. She wanted the world to see her exactly as she was. The reporter asked the first question, "Ayanna, what would you say to Mr. Slate right now?" She looked straight into the camera. "I'd say thank you." The reporter blinked. "Thank you?" "Yes," she said, "because he set a trap. And when it closed, it didn't catch me. It caught him. And in that moment, the world saw something we've known for a long time. That racism doesn't always shout. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it gives speeches. Sometimes it hides behind scholarship forms." The clip went viral again. Millions watched. Some cheered. Some attacked her online, calling her a liar, saying she only wanted attention. One comment said, "If she's really his niece, why does she act like she's the victim?" Ayanna read it aloud to Malik. "Because truth and power don't always share the same skin," he replied. But something darker was coming. The next day, Jason arrived at the church pale and panicked. "My mom got fired," he said. Slate's team traced the leak back to her. They said she violated her contract. Ayanna's heart dropped. "Oh no." Jason wiped his eyes. "She told me not to blame myself. But I do. I told her to help us." Malik put a hand on his shoulder. "She did the right thing. And you did too. But this means Slate is striking back harder now." Jason sat down, voice shaking. "She's scared, Ayanna. And there's something else." "What?" She said, "Slate's trying to use your father's name to build a new story. He's planning a press release. He wants to claim your father abandoned you, and that he stepped in to honor his brother's legacy by offering you a second chance." Ayanna's fists clenched. "He wants to make himself look like the hero." Miss Lila said, "We need to stop this before it gets out." Malik picked up his phone. "Then we hit first." They gathered all the final evidence, the emails, the birth certificate, the video, the scholarship rankings. With the help of the lawyer, they sent it to every major news outlet. By that evening, Slate's face was on every screen in the country, and not in a good way. But just as Ayanna was starting to feel a spark of hope, boom! A loud explosion shook the church. Glass shattered. Everyone hit the floor. Jason pulled Ayanna behind a pew. Smoke filled the air. Malik crawled toward the door. "Stay down." Sirens were already wailing outside. The lawyer yelled, "Everyone out. Now." They stumbled into the parking lot, coughing, eyes wide. The side of the church was scorched. A fire had started near the back door. Firefighters pulled up fast and started spraying. Ayanna looked around. "Is anyone hurt?" "No," Miss Lila said, her voice shaking. "But that wasn't an accident." A firefighter walked over. "We found this near the flames." He handed Malik a small black object. "A homemade firebomb." Jason whispered, "They tried to burn us out." Ayanna looked at the still-smoking church. Her voice was steady. "They didn't burn us," she said. "They just proved how far they'll go." But just as the firefighters walked off, a police car rolled up behind them. 2 officers stepped out. One of them looked at Ayanna and said, "You're coming with us." She blinked. "What? Why?" "You've been named in a formal complaint," the officer said. "Conrad Slate is pressing charges for defamation and theft." Malik stepped forward. "That's a lie." The officer pulled out handcuffs. "We'll sort it out downtown." Ayanna stared at the cuffs. Jason shouted, "You can't be serious. She's the victim." But they didn't listen. Ayanna turned to her friends. "Don't let this stop." And then, the cuffs snapped around her wrists. She was led into the back of the police car. As the door closed, she looked out the window one last time and whispered, "I'm not done yet." Let me know when you're ready for Chapter 5, the final chapter. The cold seat of the police car pressed against Ayana's back. Her hands, cuffed tight behind her, were going numb. The flashing red and blue lights painted the windows, spinning across her face. She tried to steady her breathing. "They want you scared," she thought. "But fear is their game, not yours." Outside, her friends were shouting. Jason's voice broke through the glass. "This is wrong. She didn't steal anything." But the officers didn't speak. Not a single word. Just silence and the low crackle of the radio. 15 minutes later, the car pulled into the downtown station. The building was gray, ugly, and sharp-edged, like it had never welcomed anyone. Ayana was marched inside, her chin held high even as the other officers whispered and stared. She heard one mutter, "That's the girl who exposed Slate." She was fingerprinted, photographed, locked in a holding cell, and left. Hours passed. No lawyer, no food, just the hum of flickering lights and the heavy weight of injustice pressing in. Then finally the door opened. A tall woman in a black suit stepped in, holding a leather folder. Her hair was in long braids, her eyes sharp and calm. "Miss Brooks," she asked. Ayana stood up fast. "Are you my lawyer?" The woman nodded. "Name's Tasha Raymond, civil rights attorney. Your friend Malik called me." Ayana exhaled, a deep breath that came with tears she hadn't let fall. "I didn't steal anything," she said quickly. "All I did was speak the truth." "I know," Tasha said, "and so does the world." She handed Ayana her phone. The screen showed a news app. "Breaking. New evidence suggests Conrad Slate lied under oath. Police chief demands investigation." Ayana blinked. "He lied." Tasha smiled. "Slate told the media you hacked his servers. But digital logs show your application was deleted after the video leaked, and by one of his own assistants. A whistleblower came forward. Slate's trying to frame you." Ayana whispered, "Will they drop the charges?" Tasha leaned in. "They're not just dropping them. They're filing charges against him." Ayana's heart jumped. But Tasha wasn't done. "And your story inspired 3 other students, all black, who applied for Slate scholarship last year and were mysteriously rejected. They're coming forward too. This is bigger than you, Ayana. This is a movement now." The jail cell door creaked open. "You're free to go," the guard muttered. Ayana stepped out. Her wrists still ached from the cuffs, but her spine was straight, strong. When she walked through the station lobby, the crowd outside roared. Camera flashes burst. Reporters leaned forward. But all Ayana saw were the faces of her people, Malik, Jason, Miss Lila, the lawyer, and dozens of others. They were waiting for her, holding signs. "We stand with Ayana. Truth over power. End scholarship discrimination." As she walked outside, the sun hit her face. Warm, real, bright. Jason ran up and hugged her. "We knew you'd make it out." Malik smiled. "Told you they couldn't break you." Miss Lila whispered, "The trap failed. But your kindness? It exposed everything." Ayana looked out at the crowd, then stepped up to the microphone someone had placed at the edge of the church steps. The news cameras turned. She took a breath. "When Conrad Slate tried to erase me, I didn't fight back with money or lawyers. I fought with truth. I fought with my voice. And I found something I didn't expect, kindness. Not from the rich, not from the powerful, but from people who believed in what was right, even when it cost them everything." She glanced at Jason. "At first, I thought the trap was meant for me. But now I see. The trap was always meant to expose the way this world still works, to show us who still gets chosen and who still gets erased." She raised her voice. "This is not just about a scholarship. It's about being heard. It's about being seen. And if I have anything to say about it, no young black girl will ever have to hide her truth to earn a future." The crowd erupted into cheers. Days passed. The investigation into Slate grew bigger. He was forced to step down from all leadership positions. His reputation collapsed. More whistleblowers came forward. His private messages leaked, and the world saw the way he'd built his empire, with masks and mirrors and carefully crafted lies. But Ayana didn't stop there. She launched her own foundation, the Voice Scholarship Fund, with the help of allies, community leaders, and donations from around the country. It gave money to students who refused to be silent about racism, injustice, and inequality. She toured schools, spoke on panels, met students just like her, tired, brave, and ready to rise. And when reporters asked her how it all began, she would smile softly and say, "It started with a trap, but it ended with kindness, and it changed everything."